to printing money, people who get to use it first have the greatest benefit. The government spends it, so they get a benefit, and that props up the politicians and gets them reelected, helps the bureaucrats. But then the people who get the money first, the bankers, the military-industrial complex, now it's the medical-industrial complex. So when that money circulates, then prices go up. So in the medical-industrial complex, you end up with high cost of medical care and difficult time getting insurance. And in the military-industrial complex, they make these huge profits, and you get the high cost of living. So this is something that is not so strange. This past month, the bonuses were passed out on Wall Street. $38 billion worth of bonuses. Now, I have nothing against capitalism. I believe in a free society, you have a right to earn your money, but I want you to have the right to keep your money, too, and have a chance to work hard. Strange about this transfer of wealth, and if people are getting wealth because of the inflationary monetary system or the way we spend our money, that's not fair, and I think that people resent this. Right now, today, though, the American people have a tough time, and they act too much like government as well. They borrow too much money. The American people now owe $900 billion on credit card debt, and that's a problem, but it's part of this whole system of living beyond our means. But I think the real message coming from the campaign is this. I think the American people are aware of this. And like I said, I wasn't sure they would be. And I'm helping to let people know about these problems. But believe me, a lot of people realize this and they'll say, you know what, that's exactly what I've been thinking. And people are joining us. Some young people who have never been involved before, they're just entering the voting age. And then there are people who have dropped out and they say, I'm coming back in. Sometimes there are Democrats who come over and say, I don't even hear this anyplace else. But then we have people 60 and 70 years of age, have never been involved before, and they've been waiting to hear a real message of freedom. Freedom and responsibility and the Constitution, the rule of law, and a wiser foreign policy, minding our own business, and protecting our people here at home. This is what they've been starved for, and once they hear about it, they respond very favorably. When I started, I didn't think there would be much money available for the campaign. That was one of the reasons I said, let's not do it. Who's going to donate for somebody who believes in the Constitution? Well, I guess not. I found a few. How did we do that? Did I go out and find some computer expert that was going to harness the internet? No, didn't do that. I knew the internet was very important, and I knew that if I put the platform out on the internet, that they would have a chance to know how I've been voting and what I believe in. And lo and behold, after the first debate or two, people started visiting that internet, and the organization came from you, people, the grassroots, all of a sudden got together. I mean, it is astounding. It is amazing on how it happened. For two particular days in this last quarter, on one day $4 million, then $6 million. Congratulations, you did a great job. The significance of all this is that the money doesn't come from special interests. It comes from special people, special individuals. Right now, it looks like the special interests have been tapped out. They probably donated all up front. Some have raised up to $100 million. And you know, they do this bundling. They go to the corporations and all the executives put the maximum together. And they come and they deliver the millions of dollars and they represent the special interests because they expect something from it. And yet, this is the wonderful part about running on a platform I have. You don't come with the expectation that I'm going to get you some special favor. You expect me to go and fight for your freedom. That's what's exciting. Special special interests take over, which I believe they have, there's a big temptation that all we have to do is regulate people who petition or lobby the Congress. And I haven't accepted that approach, because you have a right to petition the Congress, and you don't want to restrain people on how they spend their own money. But we still have this problem of special interests controlling us. Now, the ultimate solution, well, there's two solutions. One, only have individuals in Washington who will resist the temptation to be influenced by the special interest. But ultimately, when things are up for sale, when the government has so much for sale, there's going to be lobbying. If you make it illegal, there's still going to be lobbying. So eventually, we have to get rid of that. But so I'm not for the conventional McCain-Feingold type of campaign finance reform, because it attacks our First Amendment rights. But there is another approach here that I think would be a solution which would restrain the special interest. And that is, when a company comes and signs a contract with the American government, with the United States government for $1 million or more, or even less than $1 million, they're signing a contract, they ought to sign with the agreement and with the obligation that they no longer can lobby Congress. So that doesn't affect all of us who want to petition the Congress, and it only affects them because they signed this, and this is the agreement, and this might put a damper to a degree. But ultimately, that is not the final answer. The final answer is to have constitutional government, only have the government doing those things which it was designed to do, and believe me, that is very, very limited. When we get our constitutional government back again, we will obviously have a different tax system. And we'll start with repealing the 16th Amendment. I get a lot of worried calls on this. A lot of people in the media worrying about it, wanting to know what's going to happen. What will happen to the government if we don't have an income tax? And what are you going to replace it with in order for the government to exist? And you know what I want to replace it with? I want to replace it with nothing. You know, it's not like we'd be starving the government. If you took that $1 trillion away that they get from the income tax, we'd still have as much money as we had 10 years ago. I would say government was plenty big enough 10 years ago, and I would even want to shrink it from that size. But we could live without the income tax. We did up until 1913. It's the worst of all taxes. It's a tax that, you know, there's a lot of controversial arguments about whether the income tax is technically constitutional or not. But the one part of that argument that I'm absolutely confident on, the way the taxes are collected is unconstitutional. Because what they do is they assume that we are guilty until proven innocent, and we are required to testify against ourselves. And I do not believe that any tax that requires that should be a legitimate tax, and someday the American people will wake up and maybe have another Boston Tea Party. Yeah!